Well, welcome back to Cityline. As you saw, Odette's over there in the corner getting ready to show us something. I have someone on the comfy couch, but right now it's time for our pet of the week. And we'd like to introduce to you Gene. Gene is a 1-year-old Plott Hound mix who has been at the shelter since July. He is a relaxed companion, but does break out some excited, goofy energy when the time is right. He recently had a blast playing with a tennis ball and a pool. Gene otherwise is a pretty laid-back guy. He enjoys a good walk around the block, and he is the type to smell the roses, so he's a perfect pal if you need someone to remind you that life doesn't have to always be so fast-paced. The Humane Society reports that Gene would do best in a home with teens and adults and could do well in a home with a female dog who's about the same size as he is. To learn more about Gene or to adopt Gene, go to thehumanesociety.org/adoptable-pets. All right, now, with me now on the comfy couch is someone who I think probably really loves dogs because he loves nature and he loves plants and all that good stuff. I'm talking about the lead horticulturalist at Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium, Mr. Bryon Jones. How are you, and welcome?
Well, thank you. So doing really well. Good,
good. And you get to hang out at the Botanical Gardens, and gosh, what a great office you have.
It's a fun place.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about what a horticulturalist is and what they do besides loving dogs.
Well, so horticulture it's all about plants. And so it's that fancy word, but in the end, it's like horticulturists, we take care of plants. And in the zoo, we're taking care of plants that actually often have a connection to the animals, or they may even have connections to people. It's the interconnectedness. And some people that do horticulture, they come in with fancy backgrounds. I have a master's degree in environmental horticulture from University of Washington.
Yoo-hoo,
but ultimately, it's about growing plants and having a lot of fun doing so.
So why is it important to learn about trees, plants, and even soil?
Well, so there's a lot of things that, for plants, trees, and soil, it's like, sometimes it's about, plants connect in ways that are like, they can provide habitat to animals, they can provide food to people and animals, they can do things for the environment, they can mitigate temperatures, like trees in urban environments do a lot to mitigate temperatures. Plants medicine, it's pretty phenomenal how many plants that have medicines have been derived from. And at the zoo, it's like the animals appreciate the plants in various ways, and they get to interact with them. And so I think we'll maybe be talking a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So when you think about that collection of plants that you have, and I walk every day, so I look at some of the plants that are around my neighborhood. First and foremost, what do you find most fascinating? And then are there any endangered plants in that collection?
Yeah, well, for me, it's fascinating because at the zoo, in particular, so you see all these textures and all these colors. And this morning I was walking around and it's hummingbirds going by and bees going by. And so there's all this types of stuff. And then as you asked, it's like at the zoo, we have the chance to share stories about the plants and how they interconnect. So with animals or with people, and how their ecosystems where maybe a plant might be endangered. So we have, at last count, I think we had about over 45 types of plants that were endangered at the zoo. And many of those we had multiples of. So we're not talking just 45, we're talking 45, but in some cases we may have dozens of that particular plant so that the community can come see and learn about them.
Well, and the parallel just struck me, Bryon, that you have some of the zoo family that lives there at Point Defiance. You have them because they are endangered, and we want to be able to maybe somehow look at, can we further propagate this endangered animal? You're doing the same thing with plants.
We are doing the same thing with plants. A lot of our stuff is telling stories about them, like where they come from in ecosystems. We even have plants that go back to ancient times, back to the dinosaurs. We call them living fossils. And so we do tours. I know we'll talk talk about
Yeah,
that.
let's
But we
talk
do
about
tours, and some of those tours, living fossils, we talk about plants going back to dinosaur times, so like the monkey puzzle tree, or we talk about other plants that might be connected in different ways to backyard pollinators, so butterflies and bees and birds. Or we have a tour that's about leafy and fruity hors d'oeuvres, where it's like all about the plants that the animals and the zookeepers can feed to the animals. So it's that type of stuff that we do, and so it's really fun how that connections are.
Oh, I love that. And I love the fact that we've been showing some of these slides of the plants. And the old bamboo's got to get in there because bamboo is ancient.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Bamboo's an interesting plant, so if you choose to grow that.
If you choose to grow it, you may regret it. But at the same time, Bryon, if I were to come into the zoo and go, hey, where's Bryon? I want to talk with him about morning glory. You would be the person for me to talk to.
Yeah, so, or any of the folks that are within the horticultural team as well. So
I love that.
Yeah.
This Sunday, today is August 1st, this Sunday, August 4th, there's a tour that we've kind of alluded to called Plants Gone Wild.
Yeah.
What will guests learn about that?
So Plants Gone Wild, it's all about that jungly plant. So over in our Asian Forest Sanctuary, amidst all these animals that you will see as you walk through on the tour, you're bound to see perhaps a Malaysian tapir or a Noah, these different animals. But we'll be focusing on the plants, and we'll be looking at big leafy bananas, and we'll be looking at bamboos, which the zoo has over 45 types of bamboo. Some are giant, and grow up to 70 plus feet tall. We'll be looking at lots of flowering plants and plants that come from all over the world, so that help give that feel of a jungle environment where the animals come from.
Oh my gosh, that is fabulous. So are the tours free to the public? And while we're there, regardless if they're free or not, can we see animals?
So the tours on the first Sunday of every month are free with admission, or membership. And so those tours take place. We have 12 different subjects we talk about, so that you can find those on the zoo's website, and they'll tell you what we'll be talking about that particular Sunday. We also offer this tour called Zoo for You tours, where they're an in-depth tour that people can book, and then they can get more focus from one of our horticultural team and maybe look at something they're really personally interested in. And so those things happen. And then you asked that last question.
Yes.
I lost track of.
That's okay. I want to, what kind of animals are we going to see?
Oh, and so animal-wise. So if you're walking around the zoo and we happen to be doing the tour down there on the plants like the carnivorous plants or pitcher plants, we'll be in Red Wolf Woods. So we'd see the red wolves. Oh. Or if we were up in the southern border section where we're looking at plants from the southern hemisphere, you're going to be around animals like the lemurs. So you're bound to see animals as we even do our plant tours,
Absolutely.
which is super fun.
Okay, so this is a silly question. As we're doing the plant tour, are there any plants that humans can eat and chew on while we're touring?
So good question there. We do have an upcoming tour, and I might be in November.
Okay.
Check the website for it, called the Sensory Garden Tour.
Ooh.
We don't eat the plants, but we touch the plants. We smell the plants. We do all sorts of things that we can feel. And it's amazing how some of the plants might feel coarse, like sandpaper, or they have a minty smell. Mm-hmm. We even have a plant that smells a lot like peanut butter.
You know what I learned from Metro Parks years ago, that I learned how to plant a Cosmo flower that smelled like chocolate when my daughter was little. So we had all these beautiful little wildflowers in our yard that I got the inspiration from Point Defiance and Metro Parks. But you could put your nose in and smell chocolate on a purple flower. So that's why I thought, well, let's talk about what we can do. Last minute here, or last 30 seconds, who do we need to thank?
I'd like to think it takes a tremendous amount of work. So our volunteers that help us, the horticultural team is phenomenal. It's a small team, but it's amazing. And the whole zoo community. It's like, it really is a community that helps make this be possible for you guys to come visit and see the incredible botanical collection. So
yeah, and the botanical collection, I mean, the work that you put into keeping that collection up. And we don't always have the most predictable weather here. You guys must sleep there, because I swear to God, you're up there at 3 in the morning going, is the plant okay? thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
When I have you back on, I want you to bring some plants.
Will do.
All right, it's time for me to walk over to Odette from Celebrity Cake Studio and find out about icing and decorating cakes. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back.